Hey folks, welcome to Guitar Daily. It's Nick Granville coming to you from Wellington, New Zealand. So today I thought I'd talk about Josie. It's one of my favourite Steely Dan songs, and Steely Dan is one of my favourite bands. I've got a little bit of a connection with Steely Dan. I've hung out with John Harrington when he was in Wellington, and actually toured New Zealand with Jim Pugh, the trombone player in their band. So I had a little bit of a connection with him. I'd love to do that gig one day. Wouldn't it be amazing to get to play with Steely Dan? But reality is, living in New Zealand, it's just never going to happen. But nonetheless, I thought today what I'd show you is kind of my approach to Josie and what makes this one of the greatest songs that Steely Dan ever did, in my opinion. So, first off, the intro. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And the thing with that is it's kind of ambiguous and it doesn't really... Often the thing with an intro is you want it to set up what's coming next, to sort of give hint to what's coming next. But this, in a lot of ways, doesn't. You don't know what's going to happen. All those parallel fifths, right? That's not a fifth, but that is. It's quite unusual. And then you have this line. So you have all these fifths going on, and then it opens out with these chords. Now I've seen these played a lot of different ways, but this is the way it makes most sense to me. F major 7 with the 7 on top. F sharp 7 sharp 9 with the sharp 9 on top. G major 7 with the 7 on top, and then this chord. Right, with the G on top. So it's important, the key thing to me is that top note. Now I've seen it played lots of different ways. To me, what I hear is... like that's it, right? That's the melody line. So it kind of has to be the top voicing of the chord. And I've spent a lot of time studying this, so this is the closest that it sounds right to me. So there's your first chord, F major, F, C, E, and then F sharp 7 sharp 9. Just that voicing there, the Hendrix chord, but in this position. G major 7, close voicing. Close meaning all in order. G, B, D, F sharp. And then this. I don't even know what that chord is against, but it's pretty cool. I guess you could say it's like an F minor 9, A flat, or an A flat major 13. Depends on what the root note is. I'd have to check that out. But that sounds about as close to right as me. And then we're into this groove. Which is just E minor 7, and it sounds like Dean Parks is playing a G major over top of an E minor. This sort of thing, with this really funky kind of bass line thing. So it's got groove, it's got all this wonderful harmony in it already, and we've established this thing, right? And then the melody comes in. Very clever. I mean, we're getting this minor 6 thing going on, which kind of implies the 4 chord as well. And then one of my favourite bits about the whole song is these chords that come in next. So let's analyse that and have a look at what's going on. We have this chord here, which is classic Steely Dan, A triad with a D in the bass, right? In other words, this chord. Right. But to me, it's really clearly that C sharp on the top of the chord. Right. So we have A over D, G over C. In fact, I don't think it even has that bottom note. I think it's in the bass line. It might be more like... but definitely sounds like that to me. And then the next chord, D over G. And then C over F. Remember, we're in E minor, so that F note is like chromatic passing, right? Chromatic up. That's how I've always played it. You could also go. Or you could go. What would the next one be? Lots of different ways to voice those chords, but the point of it is that's, to me, that's one of the Steely Dan chords. Is like, whatever chord we're on, we go up a fifth and we play the triad, major triad over it. Hear that in their music a lot. Probably Donald Fagen thinking like a piano player on his Rhodes. You know, you'd be playing a triad, then a different bass note against it to get that thing. Right, and then we're back to that E minor groove and so on and so on. And then when we got into the chorus, and I remember this like really confusing me when I transcribed it. That was straightforward, right? It has this F passing chord, F major, kind of unusual, but not out of the realm of anything. But to me, then I heard it go 2, 5, 1, right? For the chorus section, what you could call the chorus section. And I remember at the time thinking, well, if it's a minor, it's going to have to be 2, 5, 1. And that's my jazz education coming out, right? Minor 2, 5, 1s. And I was so stuck in my head about trying to get that, and I just couldn't get it. And then one day I was like, I couldn't figure out why the first chord just sounded wrong. And because it's not this. But in my head, it was like, well, theoretically, 2 chord has to be a minor 7 flat 5 and a minor, right? No. So what I did was I found the root note, which I knew was that. I found the top note, which I knew was that in the voicing. And I kind of played around with the other notes. And my first thing to do was to go, well, there's your minor third. No, it's not. It's really clearly major to me. But you have the minor there. And that's where I think I was getting confused. And I was like, oh, it's got to be the Hendrix chord or a sharp 9 chord, right? 1, 3, flat 7, sharp 9. So it's actually major and minor. And then B7, sharp 5, E flat, E minor of some sort, in this case minor 9. And then that F major is a passing. Interesting passing chord to have a major right in the middle there. It's very unique harmony. Do you know what I mean? And that's one of the things that I appreciate with Steely Dan, and particularly with this tune, is that they don't sound like anyone else. And to me, that's the most important thing in any music. I've heard lots of Wes Montgomery clones, for example, and to me, it's like I'd rather listen to Wes than hear someone else trying to sound like Wes, right? And the thing is, with Steely Dan, I just hear something that's completely original. Like nobody sounds like that. And to me, that's what's exciting about it and what's interesting. And I think part of it is this harmony. And then it goes to an A7, in this case A13, color it as you wish. And then 2, 5, 1 to the G to 4. So like Autumn Leaves, right? 2, 5, 1, 4. And then... right, which leads you back, right? And the melody against all of that... very clever, very nice kind of stuff. And then, of course, that goes round and around a couple of times with great lyrics, of course, as you would expect from those guys. Very catchy lyrics that stick in your mind. But then we have this kind of groove bit that happens next, which... let's get rid of that. Don't go. And then we're into that wonderful guitar solo. Now, the guitar solo is a topic for another day, because that is also something that makes this song great. To me, that's one of the great guitar solos, but we'll discuss that another day. But that little groove section that happens in the bridge, it's kind of almost like a breakdown, but it takes it somewhere else. It's really interesting, right? And then we go to the guitar solo, then back, and that intro part happens again later on, and so on and so on. And then we just kind of go out on this little groove, again, with a really interesting snare fill into it. It's like an odd number of beats. It's not what you expect, at least anyway. We're back to this. So anyway, I thought I'll play you out with a little bit of the track with Josie.